On lap 26 of the 2021 Italian Grand Prix, Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen crashed at the first corner, Variante di Rettifilo, resulting in both drivers retiring out of the race and sending social media into rapture. On the previous lap, Max Verstappen came in for his first and only pit stop of the race. Red Bull took 11.4 seconds to change his tires, and he came out of the pit stop a projected 2 to 3 seconds behind Lewis, who was stopping the following lap. Lewis Hamilton had a slow stop as well, 4.7 seconds, but not nearly half as slow as Verstappen. This means that the 2 to 3 second gap Hamilton had over Verstappen was now gone. Hamilton came out of the pit lane behind the fast-charging McLaren of Lando Norris and equidistant with his main rival, Max Verstappen. Being separated in the championship by only 5 points, neither one of the two drivers was going to back out of the corner and give way to the other. Lewis had the inside light into the corner, and Max followed by taking the outside. Lewis left Max 0 to no room, pretty much forcing Max Verstappen to have to yield. But as previously established, Max wasn't going to yield. He stuck to his line and tried to send his car up the inside of the second corner when...
It's wheel to wheel, Hamilton and Verstappen, and this time Verstappen and Hamilton have crashed out, and they are both out! As Hamilton came from his pit stop, rejoined the racetrack.
Max Verstappen's car was launched into the air over the orange sausage curb, landing straight on top of Lewis. Both cars were out of the race, and the safety car was brought out to make sure that both of the cars that were beached in the gravel were out of the way. With both the Red Bull and the Mercedes out of the race, nobody can challenge both McLaren cars of Daniel Ricciardo and Lando Norris, but we will save that for another video. First and foremost, we have to give credit where credit is due. We've been giving a lot of crap to the FIA for a while now, on how rules seem to be bended as they please, but they have saved, in my opinion, the greatest Formula One driver of all time's life. Lewis Hamilton might not have been as fortunate as he was if the halo was not implemented back in 2018. The halo has saved the lives of Charles Leclerc, Romain Grosjean, and now Lewis Hamilton. Max Verstappen's floor was dropped straight onto the left portion of the Mercedes car, and as gravity took over, his right rear tire drove straight onto Lewis's halo, and it even grazed his helmet. This very well could have paralyzed him, or maybe even a worse fate could have followed without his halo. A very fitting name for such a revolutionary device. Now, I'm going to attack the FIA for the decision to give Verstappen a 3-place grid penalty for the race in Sochi. In their official release of the decision, the race stewards say that they met with both drivers, Lewis and Max, and reviewed all of the footage they can get their hands on. After their review, they determined that car number 33, driven by Verstappen, was predominantly to blame for the collision. They noted that Max Verstappen was not any further forward than just behind the front wheel of Lewis Hamilton. During the hearing, Verstappen argued that Lewis Hamilton opened the steering of his car and squeezed him to the apex of turn 2, which seems to be the case looking at the onboard video of Max right when the crash occurred. Lewis said in response that Max tried to pass him very late and should have given him the corner by letting him pass or going over the curb on the left-hand side, cutting the corner, which would have resulted in Lewis having to re-overtake Verstappen. The stewards say they observed that Verstappen was not at all alongside car 44 driven by Lewis until significantly into the entry of turn 1. It was determined that Max Verstappen didn't have enough room to attempt a move into the second corner. Finally, the stewards emphasized that they had only considered the move itself and not the consequences thereof. Now, that was certainly a lot to unpack, but I just want to ask this. If this incident happened between Mazepin and Schumacher, would a 3-place grid job be issued? Or even if it was better teams involved, for example, if the incident was between an AlphaTauri and an Alpine? It's hard to say. The FIA tends to be inconsistent when handing out penalties, and I don't know if the penalty was entirely warranted. Sure, Max went up the inside and attempted a serious dive bomb, but I still want to see hard racing in Formula One. Championship contenders battling out wire to wire is what we all want to see, and thankfully so far this season we have seen plenty of that. It's really hard to call, but I personally still think it was a racing incident. And even the commentators, Crofty and Martin Brundle, with their so-called British bias being thrown around, called it a racing incident, and they just said it was hard racing. Something that I found out while recording this video that's actually pretty interesting and kind of slightly wants me to change my mind in favor of giving Max the penalty was that Verstappen actually performed the exact same move that Hamilton pulled on him, but it was in the sprint qualifying, and it was on Daniel Ricciardo. But Daniel backed out of the move and let Verstappen by, so we didn't see any big crash. And Ricciardo didn't have anything to gain by making that move on Verstappen. But I think with the championship so close, there was no way that either Lewis or Max was going to back down from that move. And the really most important, biggest takeaway from this is that Lewis is safe and he's okay. Well guys, thank you for watching my assessment of the penalty Max Verstappen was given. What do you think about the incident? Let me know in the comments box down below what you think and how you think Max Verstappen will perform in Sochi with this penalty. Make sure to check out my brand new website in the description below. It's a great hub for all things racing and cars, and follow me on Twitter to connect with me about Formula One. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys on the grid.